the final module. A few little areas that I want to show you before we finish. Quick overview into the project. Jump into the item schedule. Here we've got the item ID, remember? So click on that. This gives us the item ID. There's lots of information that we can store at this item ID. If you store information at the item ID, it will reflect on every location that is attached to that item ID. If you've got something particular at the location, then store it at the location. All right, let's have a look. So here's a supplier tab. Now we have a concept of default supplier and installer. You can set it in the project catalog and you can set it in your administrative. So if you've got a favorite supplier, installer for certain divisions, you can set it and that way it'll automatically set it for you. In this tab, you've got procurement that you can set. So here we're going to set contractor furnish, contractor installed. Here we add our supplier because the default wasn't there. Also, of course, if you use the clipper like we did with Kohler, then that supplier would appear here as well. Just play around with it and you'll see how it works. I'm going to select Earth Elements, Park City. And if you want, of course, you can add a POC here, which is kind of nice, right? So you've got your information. Let's jump back to the item ID detail, item ID notes here that'll appear when you select it in certain outputs. Here you're able to add a spec, option, or dependent. So let's look at dependents first. A dependent is something that sort of goes with that item ID. Let's talk about that. Tile, a dependent would be the grout. You don't really want to show the grout as a primary item in your schedule, but it's attached to that tile. Toilet seat attached to a toilet that doesn't have a seat. Rough-in valve control to a control on a shower. Supply valve for a toilet. You get the idea, right? Dependent. So simply all we do here is click and we can then go in and grab any item we want and add it as our dependent. Here I'm going to add a specification. Now specifications help clarify certain things. For instance, if you've got a baseboard there or something like that and you have a 6x1 and you want to show a diagram of it, you can load it up into your specs. We've got a ton of these and click on it and then it gets added in there and it'll produce on your installation documents. If you've got shop drawings or any documents, you've put something on the back of a napkin and scanned it, upload it, then just upload it in here. And then that would simply attach to this ID as well. Alternative items. We'll have supplier sharing shortly, which would be fantastic. When you're sharing and collaborating with a supplier, then the supplier can add alternatives here and then you can look at those. So the supplier would come in or you come in here ready for a client meeting and you add those alternatives and then by clicking set as primary, it'll move it to that primary location. Fantastic, powerful, play around with this, really great. Okay, let's go and now have a look at the books. We looked at the design book, but we've got installation book. We haven't added any installers, so we can't produce it. We do have some suppliers, a product and schedule. Play around with these. Procurement book, when you click on that, it'll look at all of the suppliers that have been attached to this particular project. There's actually 3. You can click all of them or one of them or a few of them. If you click all, it's going to produce a book dedicated to that supplier because then you can then send that document out for procurement or to your team. So click next. Here you've got this sort of book layout concept where you can create some layouts, save them, tick boxes, on, off, change around, play around. It's really great. Create, and now you've got that procurement book based on information that you can send off to your supplier or if you wanted to do the installer. Right, let's go back and look at locations. Get out of the way there, Steve. So location here, we talked about it briefly before. This location here, you've got the ID. If you had dependents and things like that, documents, etc., they'd all appear down here below. So here we can add a specification or location or a document to the location that it applies to. So if it was this particular location had specific information, you can place it here. All right. Then you end up with a schedule that looks like this. It's fantastic. All the information, where it goes, etc. You can sort by room and space, you can sort by item IDs. Here's the link to the document attached. Here's some information. Let's zoom in where we've got technical documentation, installation notes, etc. You could have put a spec up there. Play around. It enables you to get every little bit of information, tile layout, grout thickness, etc., to the installer, to the contractor, so they know exactly what you're going to do. All right, that's it. Play around. There's lots of information in the knowledge base to get into the details. This is a really quick summary, but I really hope you enjoyed. Have fun with Design Efficiently.